Now, painting your front door is in a fabulous color is one of the simplest ways to express your style, add some curb appeal to your home, and the best part is there are so many colors to choose from. So where do you get your inspiration from, Cher?
Well, Tracy, like so many other people, I am totally obsessed with doors. I have so many photos from travels in my iPhoto library. It's crazy. And, from the days when we used to be able to travel, whether it was across Canada or overseas. So I really love when you see the ancient old patina on an old metal door, or, the beautiful character that comes out of an old, like an aged wood door. But definitely for me, it's the color that really attracts and inspires me. So because I haven't been going much further than my backyard the past year or so, I'm really living vicariously through all my old photos. And one thing I've noticed is that our European friends are way more bold with their color choices for the doors. So I narrowed it down to 6 of my favorites just to show some inspiration. So let's take a look at these bold colors, Tracy. The first one is from Belfast, and this is a really nice bright burgundy, but I love the contrast against that gray pebble stone on the wall. And then the other one is from Malta. And the limestone walls that are just natural there are kind of a yellow tone. So this sort of gold on the traditional Maltese balcony and the door, it kind of blends in, but if you pull that door color out, it's actually a really, really rich gold. And then, come a little bit closer to home. I have to say most of the Canadian shots I have are from Quebec City. I love the colors of the doors there. And look at this one, Trace, that really sort of vintage, nostalgic greeny blue against that old stone wall. I just love it. And then for something really, really bold, this Dublin door, it's like a coral color. It almost looks like lipstick against that grimy brick wall, and then it's outlined in the yellow, so really, really strong. And then from Milan, this is kind of the most shocking combination, the pink plaster walls, and then that crazy shocking green. I just love it. I probably wouldn't use that against the pink, but I absolutely love it. And then from Portugal, I know, Trace, you've traveled to Portugal, so you probably have a lot of door photos from there too. But, this one was my favorite. Even with the purple tiled wall that they had, they still chose a bold color, this sort of gem-like blue. So I just love that.
That totally makes sense to me when you see sort of the European sensibility. It's very expressive and personality driven. So coming back to reality here at home, let's come on back to Canada. What are the big colors being used in Canada on front doors?
Okay, well, hold on to your hat, Trace. Black, white, gray, and woohoo, navy, hail navy. So, not quite as exciting, but classic and simple. I get it. But you know what? Those are the top selling colors, but I dug a little bit further, and I'm happy to say that I found some color surfacing to the top.
You helped me pick the red door color that we have at our house, which we love, and we love, love, love that red. So we've been inspired by our travel picks. We know the popular colors that Canadians are painting, but you're going to stretch the color wheel just a little bit farther. Hang on to your hats, everyone, and paint with this bold color that you've got on that door beside you. It looks amazing.
Isn't that nice? I was so inspired by that Dublin door, that really sort of strong coral color. I've seen a lot of pink doors lately. I'm not a pink person, but as soon as you mix it with orange, I love it. So this is Adobe orange. So again, it kind of has that lipstick cosmetic vibe.
Do you want to give us a few tips for if we want to paint our doors?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great project to do over a weekend. The most important thing you have to think about is the weather. You want to have a good 3 days of consistently dry, and for most paints, above 10 degrees would be great. So that means even in the evening. So that's with Aura Grand Entrance, for example. It's a modified alkyd water, like a waterborne alkyd. So you want it to be 10 degrees for that, so it cures. But if you want to get away with painting in lower temperature, I used Aura Exterior in a satin finish for this door, and you can get away with 5 degrees. So again, you got to look at the overnight temperature, so pay attention to Frankie Ferragini on the weather before you set into painting. Of course, prep is always really important, so you want to make sure your door is super clean. So you want to give it maybe a TSP cleaning, super dry, and then do any sanding. Even if it's a fairly new door, I like to do a sanding with a fine, maybe 100 grit sandpaper before you paint. If you need to prime, if you've gotten down into any raw areas, then you're going to want to prime, whether it's metal, use a metal primer, or if it's wood and you get down to the raw wood, you want to prime that for sure. And then tools, Tracy. I love my angle sash 2.5 or 2-inch brushes, especially for a panel door like this, because you can really sort of get into those areas, into those deep recessed areas. And then you're going to want to, what I tend to do is I kind of go all the way around with the brush, and then you want to make sure that you have an appropriately sized roller and make sure that it's lint free. So I tend to use these smaller ones for the panel doors, lint free, microfiber, and then you can sort of go over the outside areas and the inside. And then you got around 4 hours in between, do your second coat if you're using Aura Exterior in whatever finish, and then away you go. You can pretty much do it in a weekend.
Now, one thing that you reminded me of when we were picking out my door color is make sure you put it on the outside of the door and test it with the light, because it's going to change, isn't it, as the sun goes up and down?
Absolutely, Tracy. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because outside especially, the light changes throughout the day, and whether you're a northern or an eastern or a southern exposure, the color is going to look quite different. So get that sample, like either a paint sample or even a chip at the very least, and look at it at all times of the day to be sure that you like it before you pick up your quart of paint, for sure, because it can look very different. And if you've got a dark sort of cavernous area, you might need to go a little bit brighter than what your initial thought was and use some of those European inspired colors.
Great tip, Sharon, and I love, love, love the color of that door. You can't see me, but it's the same color as my lips right now. It's so gorgeous.
Oh, good!
Yeah. Love it.